All right, three. Nor do I now aim at instructing you, dearest and best of brothers, by means of rhetorical treatises which you regard as unpolished, for what can be more refined or graceful than your own language? But though, whether it be, as you used to say, from judgment, or as Isocrates, the father of eloquence, has written of himself, from a sort of bashfulness and ingenuous timidity, that you have shrunk from speaking in public, or whether, as you sometimes jocosely remark, you thought one orator sufficient, not only for one family, but almost for a whole community. I yet think that these books will not appear to you of that kind which may deservedly be ridiculed on account of the deficiency in elegant learning in those who have discussed the art of speaking. For nothing seems to me to be wanting in the conversation of Crassius and Antonius that any one could imagine possible to be known or understood by men of the greatest genius, the keenest application, the most consummate learning, and the utmost experience, as you will very easily be able to judge who have been pleased to acquire the knowledge and theory of oratory through your own exertions, and to observe the practice of it in mine. But that we may the sooner accomplish the task which we have undertaken, and which is no ordinary one, let us leave our exordium, and proceed to the conversation and arguments of the characters whom I have offered to your notice. The next day, then, after the former conversation had taken place, about the second hour, while Crassius was yet in bed, and Sulpicius sitting by him, and Antonius walking with Cotta in the portico, on a sudden Quintus Catulus the elder, with his brother Caius Julius, arrived there, and when Crassius can't read that word, heard of their coming, he arose in some haste, and they were all in a state of wonder, suspecting that the occasion of their arrival was of more than common importance. The parties, having greeted each other with most friendly salutations, as their intimacy required. What has brought you hither at last? Said Crassius. Is it anything new? Nothing indeed, said Catulus, for you know it is the time of public games. But you may think us, if you please, added he, either foolish or impertinent. When Caesar came yesterday in the evening to my Tusculan villa from his own, he told me that he had met Scaevola going from hence, from whom he said that he had heard a wonderful account, namely, that you, whom I could never entice into such conversation, though I endeavored to prevail on you in every way, had held long dissertations with Antonius on eloquence, and had disputed, as in the schools, almost in the manner of the Greeks. And my brother therefore entreated me, not being of myself indeed averse to hear you, but at the same time afraid we might make a troublesome visit to you, to come hither with him. For he said that Scaevola had told him that a great part of the discourse was postponed till today. If you think we have acted too forwardly, you will lay the blame upon Cesar, if too familiarly, upon both of us. For we are rejoiced to have come, if we do not give you trouble by our visit. 4. Crassius replied, whatever object had brought you hither, I should rejoice to see you at my house, men for whom I have so much affection and friendship. But yet, to say the truth, I had rather it had been any other object than which you mention. For I, to speak as I think, was never less satisfied with myself than yesterday, though this happened more through my own good nature than any other fault of mine. While I compiled with the request of these youths, I forgot that I was an old man, and did that which I had never done, even when young. I spoke on subjects that depended on a certain degree of learning. But it has happened, very fortunately for me, that, as my part is finished, you have come to hear Antonius. For my part, Crassius, returned Caesar, I am indeed desirous to hear you in that kind of fuller and continuous discussion, yet so that if I cannot have that happiness, I can be contented with your ordinary conversation. I will therefore endeavor that neither my friend Sculpius nor Cotta may seem to have more influence with you than myself, and will certainly entreat you to show some of your good nature, even to Catulus and me. But if you are not so inclined, I will not press you, nor cause you, while you are afraid of appearing impertinent yourself, to think me impertinent. Indeed, Caesar, replied Crassus, I have always thought of all Latin words there was the greatest significance in that which you have just used. For he whom we call impertinent seems to me to bear an appellation derived from not being pertinent. And that appellation, according to our mode of speaking, is of very extensive meaning. For whoever either does not discern what occasion requires, or talks too much, or is ostentatious of himself, or is forgetful either of the dignity or convenience of those in whose presence he is, or is in any respect awkward of or presuming, is called impertinent. With this fault, that most learned nation of the Greeks abounds, and consequently, because the Greeks do not feel the influence of this evil, they have not even found a name for the foible. 4. Though you make the most diligent inquiry, you will not find out how the Greeks designate an impertinent person. But of all their own impertinences, which are innumerable, I do not know whether there be any greater than their custom of raising the most subtle disputations on the most difficult or unnecessary points, in whatever place and before whatever persons they think proper. This we compelled to do by these youths yesterday, though against our will, and though we at first declined.